If you would like to support the channel, please consider becoming a patron on Patreon. More information in the description below. The swamp, the mountain, the ocean, the canyon. They're all awake now. The guardians of this land stand ready to heed Link's call. But what they'll do upon arrival is a complete unknown. Maybe they'll handle the Skull Kid and Majora. Maybe they can unmake the curse of the mask. Perhaps Link need not struggle more against this threat. He's back at the dawn of the first day, which gives him plenty of time to dread once again climbing that clock tower. In his bomber's notebook, there are gaps in schedules and times, things around town and the fields of Termina that he certainly missed, but the anxiety of facing the Skull Kid makes focusing on anything other than that confrontation almost impossible. He goes to see Andrew at the Stockpot Inn, but he can't bring himself to stay there, knowing what turmoil is taking place in her heart. The entertainers upstairs are going about their business, not knowing that Gorman was en route to see the mayor's wife and that their carnival appearances were all going to be cancelled. So maybe he could just jump ahead some time with a story. Andrew's grandmother is always willing to read him a tale, but being in the inn is just too stressful. Instead, he'll just fast forward time himself. That night, Link stands outside the Stockpot Inn and just stares out for a few. What is he doing? This is an actual waste of time, jumping ahead when he could at least make the effort to see what's going on around town, see if he can help anybody. Maybe if he finds something to focus on, the anxiety of night 3 will ease up. It's the usual, the same old around town. The main square is quiet, vendors are closing down, there's not a lot to see or do. Sure, there are a few interesting interactions here and there, but for the most part, things are just peaceful and ordinary. Time passes from early evening into late night, and just past midnight, Link walks into the northern section of town, where something distressing is happening. A familiar prancing man with a grinning face walks past a very elderly woman carrying a small bag on her back, Seiken, that thieving snake. And, true to his nature, Seiken grabs the bag off of her back, pushes her down, and begins to run away with it. Out of reflex, Link runs to the old woman to see if she's all right, but in doing so, Seiken gets away. The whole thing happened so fast, and the guard didn't move to stop him. She says that she was packing bomb bags for her store, but it's long gone towards Iconic Canyon now. That's really unfortunate. Seiken is actually the absolute worst, and Link completely failed to intervene on her behalf. It's not like him to miss something like that. So for the rest of the night, he takes to riding through the fields of Termina, searching out anything that he might have missed in his prior journeys. But here too, things are relatively quiet. At the dawn of the second day, he finds himself back at the swamp. The poisoned water is back, monsters are all around, everything rolled back to how it used to be. But with only one full day left to really explore, there's a time pressure to seek out immediate problems. It's the final night by the time he's returned to Clocktown, completely unsuccessful in his endeavor to find a purpose this cycle beyond his Skull Kid confrontation, a waste of 2.5 days. There are a few hours left, maybe he can convince somebody to flee. This might be the final cycle, he doesn't know what will happen atop that tower. So he stops to see the postman. Link has noticed him around town on the final day. He chose not to flee. Maybe he can convince him. Oh no. When Link enters the postman's house, he finds him on the floor having a complete mental breakdown. He says that he wants to flee, but he wasn't given the order and tomorrow's mail wasn't cancelled, so he won't allow himself to run away. On his bed, he even left himself a note. To myself, you have been doing a great job delivering the mail. I have a request for my hard-working self. All of the townsfolk have taken refuge. I want to flee too. Even if it's not written in the schedule, I want to flee. Please. From me. He so badly wanted to escape, but when the time came, he couldn't do it, and Link can't convince him to go. The captain of the guard had tried to convince the mayor to allow public servants to flee, but the mayor didn't do that. And it's people like the postman who are going to suffer for that choice, but one has to wonder, did the mayor himself flee? The postman just stays on the floor, enveloped in his own panic. It's all the more reason that Link cannot fail. Midnight is approaching. It's time to get ready. Ascending the staircase leads to a very familiar spot. Atop the tower, same as before, sits the Skull Kid, and the exquisitely harrowing moon looms low in the sky. And, same as before, the Skull Kid taunts that even if the four were to come right now, they wouldn't be able to stop him. Well, it's time to challenge that confidence. The Skull Kid begins to call the moon, the command for its final descent to begin, but this time, Link takes no action against him and instead just plays the oath to order. The rumble ceases. The Skull Kid ends his call to the moon and he just stops, like he's confused, looking around for something that he wasn't expecting. Whatever is happening in his mind, it forces him to thrash and scream against what's approaching. From the four corners of Termina, the giants step forth to catch the moon in the sky. They exist to protect this land, and up until now they have been ineffective against the curses of Majora, held captive and made inconsequential, until now. The four are able to stop the descent of the moon just before impact over Clock Town. As dawn begins to break, the maddened moon completely stops, held in place by the Guardians. This is victory. The sun is beginning to shine and Termina isn't in flame. Furthermore, the Skull Kid is unmoving. Tattle and Tail are finally reunited. Tattle's concern for her little brother has been consuming her this entire journey. Finally having him back safely is her goal fulfilled. When she turns her attention towards the unresponsive Skull Kid, it's to berate him for what has happened. Tail asks her to try to understand the Skull Kid, to not be so hard on him. Tattle has some quite harsh words to describe how she feels about the Skull Kid now, but lest one forget, who is really in charge here? Majora Rising was not expected. It doesn't need the Skull Kid anymore. It was a fun game, a fun distraction, but things just became far more interesting. Majora ascends into the moon, and it's terrifying. Its crash course resumes, and it looks like the four Guardians cannot actually stop it. In abject fear, Tattle begs Link to rewind time, to flee, to go back to the first day. There was no planning for this, but they have to go up into that moon. They cannot back down from it now, and this sits poorly with Tattle. She doesn't want to leave her brother. She doesn't want to go up into that moon. She even tells Link that she will not go up there. But in her refusal, Tail speaks up, saying that he will go instead. He carries guilt for the Skull Kid's actions, for never intervening, for letting things go as far as they did. But to keep her little brother safe, Tattle changes her mind and demands that she will go, actually. No backing down now, right? Together, the two run into the pathway, leading up into the moon. It's lovely. A huge, lush field of grass surrounded by a forest, and in the middle of the field rests a massive tree. There are butterflies all around it and children playing beneath it. Children who wear the masks of the foul spirits that trap the Guardians of Termina, and another who wears the mask of Majora.
Will you play with me? You're a boring kid.
A game? What? Why would he play a game with someone wearing the mask of Majora? Each of the four children running around the tree ask Link if he will hand over his masks to them, masks that they didn't earn. Most of these were gifts from the people of Termina, and they just want him to give them away to make them happy? Give them to presumably evil beings? No, absolutely not. Who knows what they'll do with them? Some of these masks have real and true power within them. And Link has played enough games. He's not giving Majora or these children the chance to get the upper hand, so no, he will not give these moon children his masks. Instead, he returns to the one wearing Majora's mask.
Will you play with me? Yes? You only have weak masks. So, you'll play? Yes? Well, shall we go?
Majora's arena is psychedelic and unusual. Four walls hold the masks that sealed away the Guardians of Termina, and Majora itself sits upon a seat of importance. It is the eye draw of the room, a sun-like throne, and when Link draws in, Majora engages. For all its manipulation and cruelty to others, Majora itself is unlike any combatant Link has ever faced. Were Link not the hero of time and once holder of the Triforce of Courage, this presence would see him cut down in a matter of moments. Even as a seasoned fighter, Majora is immediately difficult for Link to handle. It twirls around the room in loops and makes it hard to shoot and difficult to dodge, forcing Link to learn a timing in which Majora may be vulnerable with its weak sides exposed. But that opening is extremely brief, and being out of position is an opportunity lost to inflict pain on Majora. And each arrow loosed is one that he will not have later. Once this realization is made, the hero slows his attack to calculate each shot, and he uses his masks to save resources. He has to be patient and time his actions. It's a long sequence of dodging and outplaying until Majora changes the rules. Phase 1 is over. Now the 4 enter the fight. Majora's chaotic twirling continues, and now each of the masks that once rested on the walls float about as well, firing off their own attacks atop what was already taking place. But how is he supposed to handle 5 enemies at once, especially ones that float around the arena that he cannot make sword contact with? Each shot counts, even after getting a life-saving bundle of arrows, but the silver lining is that with each of the 4 that Link does manage to take down, the encounter becomes just a little bit easier. One by one he takes them down until he's back to one-on-one combat with Majora, but that doesn't mean it's easy. It fires powerful beams of fire at the boy, but he remembers this. Long ago, yet also in the future, when he was an adult back in Hyrule, the twin sorceresses within the Spirit Temple fired beams at him just like this, and he was able to use it against them. So here too, Link lines up his mirror shield and sends the attack back at Majora. This has already been a long and drawn-out affair. The hero's resources are running low, he's running out of wind. Hopefully Majora is experiencing the same thing. This phase seems to be easier to handle. The masks aren't wildly swinging around the room anymore. After a direct strike to its center, Majora lights on fire and doesn't put it out. Just starts floating around the room, and then it stops in front of Link. Majora's mask isn't done, not by a long shot, and the worst has yet to come. This is Majora's incarnation. It's changed into something with legs. It screams at the top of its lungs. It runs around the arena. It spins and dances, walks backwards. It's hard to keep up with, and it taunts Link with a creepy stare from its new eye. The way it moves, it's alarming. Ganondorf was cruel and violent, but he was predictable in his rage. He made sense. Majora, though, is unreasoning, and its ominous movements are perplexing and distressing. Link has to chase it around the arena to line up his shots and then book it into melee range to deliver as many hits as he possibly can before the creature once again rises and resumes its crude dancing. If only that screaming would stop. Every time Link takes a hit, it seems to maniacally laugh, or that could be wailing or howling. It's hard to tell the difference. He's lost count at how many hits he's landed, but after another eternity with this thing, Majora's attacks stop. And as before, it does not fall. How is this thing still going? How is it still fighting? Majora changes the rules once again, and its form. Majora's Wrath. It's more humanoid, but still screams an ungodly sound, but this thing is far more lethal than anything that came before. Its arms lash out as weapons, both close and long range, and it strikes the hero. One hit. One hit. One hit. And Link has been defeated.
Did you really think it would be that easy? Here's what you and that masked salesman don't seem to understand. The pain and terror of Termina makes me happy. I'll be waiting, hero.
Far from a fairy tale, isn't it? Were you expecting the hero to waltz in and win? In the young man's haste to destroy Majora, he left behind some within Termina who needed him. He sought to be the hero sooner rather than later. But there are powers that exceed even Majora. Old fables tell of a traveler who put down the terrible man-eater, and those powers are quite close. If Majora is near, then so are they. But finding them would require seeing to the dire straits of Termina, seeing everything remedied, doing the good and accepting that it might not mean a happy ending. He mustn't allow gloom to win. There are people who still need him. Fill out the bomber's notebook. Play the games of the Moon Children. Give them gifts and happiness too. And then face the great evil. Back to the dawn of the first day. Seems the unknowable goddess of time once again intervened on Link's behalf. Or was it perhaps for Termina, not him? Doesn't really matter, does it? Okay, well, he's clearly missed some things, so pen and paper time. What is missing in this bomber's notebook? First obvious thing is that elderly woman that Sagan attacked and stole from. And, if possible, maybe the postman? This is the final cycle, and Link wants to help deliver a bit of happiness. He can help out Anju and Cafe, maybe. He might not be able to see them reunited, but he can at least get them close enough for that sorrowful ending. So he gets his stops for the case of Anju and Cafe going, and then prepares for aiding that old woman. That will be the night of the first day. Easy enough. But you know, if he's helping the postman, Anju, Cafe, the old woman, why not the Romani sisters too? He knows their schedules, he has plenty of time. Hop to it, no time to lament over a loss. Link runs to the ranch, talks to Madame Aroma, talks to Anju. He does it all with time to spare. He will have to be quick that night, though. Right after helping the old woman, he'll have to rush to Romani to help them out. Once everything is set up, he gets back to North Clocktown to scope out places to hide out of sight from Saken, so that he can jump the jumper. Just a few steps away, though, is a curious character, one that Link has never encountered up until now. Wearing the Keaton mask that Cafe once wore, Link draws out an actual Keaton who was hiding in nearby grass. This is an unexpected surprise, and he has some trivia for Link. Let's see how you do. Answer me this. Pick one of 3 choices. What are the magic words that Tingle created? Tingle, tingle, what? Abracadabra, Cuckoo Tingle Rama, Kalu Limpa. Of course, Kalu Limpa, you degenerates. Next question. What weapon does Romani, the girl at the ranch, use in practice? A slingshot? A bow? Or she doesn't use one? Of course, the answer is a bow. She's killed many men with it. Next question. What instrument does the Skull Kid play? A tin whistle, a flute, or an ocarina? The answer is a flute. In another timeline, the Skull Kid was the hero of time and he had the ocarina, but not this time. Question number 4. How many members are in the Zora band, the Indigogos? 4, 5, or maybe 6? The answer is 5. Were you trying to count Toto as one of the members? Here we go, last question, and it's a tough one. How many balloons does Romani, the girl at the ranch, use during practice? 1, 2, or she doesn't use balloons, she uses men. The answer is 1. How did you do? That's a fun way to pass the time, no? Nice calm way to feel Hylian again after the whole Majora incident. Well, after nightfall, Link gets into position, and look at who it is. Not doing anything suspicious, not at all. This guy is about to get a royal thrashing. Link waits until midnight, keeping an eye on Saken from a distance. But it's not until that old lady appears that he pounces again. But this time, Link is ready and waiting. He doesn't try to reason with him, grab him, or get in his way. Link takes out his sword and takes a big old swing at Saken, and just repeatedly keeps trying to hit him with the goddamn sword. The thief drops his goods, and he takes off. Once again, the guard does absolutely nothing. Saving the old lady and her merchandise gets Link a great reward, the Blast Mask. Another good deed done and another mask collected. Time to get back to Romani. He only has about an hour until the invasion begins. He quickly rushes and talks to Anju, gets her letter, and then he flies to Romani Ranch and just barely makes it there in time. Link again saves the sisters, saves the ranch, brings a big, bright smile to their faces, and that evening he'll come back to help Cremia on her wagon ride. Now, what else did he miss along the way that he could do really quick? There was a weird house in the swamp near the Deku Palace. That's another good lead. He could go see what was going on there. He flies back out to the swamp, and within that creepy, webby house, Link finds a man in a state of transformation. He's somehow changing into a Skulltula. He begs Link to kill all the golden Skulltulas in his house and break the curse that he's under, and the reward for doing this is the Mask of Truth, another familiar item from a faraway place. Now, what else? What else? Being here reminds him of something. What felt like an eternity ago, after he had rescued the Deku Princess from Adolwa. They'd mentioned that the butler had prepared something for him. But did he actually ever go find the butler? He remembers that to the right of the palace was where he was told to go. But, well, going there's a bit of a problem. The water is poisonous and there's some octopus thing in the way. So the water needs to be not poisoned. Oh good, he messed it up. He was supposed to come here after cleansing the temple and he didn't. Oh gosh, what was he thinking? Okay, well, this is a lesson to be learned about diligence. So he has to go kill Adolwa again. It's fair enough. The hero remembers enough about the temple that he could probably clear it again with some time to spare, and he already has an owl statue activated that will get him to the entrance really quick. So he rushes back to the fetid courtyard, brings the temple back up to the surface, and he heads back in for round 2. But an unexpected turn of events. The guardian of this temple is still free and has enough control of this place even now that they can take Link straight to Adolwa. He doesn't have to re-clear the temple. He doesn't even have to set foot beyond the foyer to reach the boss room. Link faces down Adolwa now with all of his upgrades, his tools, and his gadgets. His first time here, it was rough. He had little to work with and very low vitality, but this chump doesn't last more than a minute in the ring with Link. The hero absolutely destroys Adolwa in this round. He gathers up the Deku Princess again, but oh, Cremia's wagon is about to leave. She will just have to hang out in that bottle for like, you know, a couple hours. Link rushes back to Romani, guides Cremia back to town, and then he hurries back to the Deku Palace to release the hopefully not suffocating princess. You know, it feels good to be productive. Link sees her safely returned home, rescues that poor Mr. Monkey, and saves the Deku people from the blight of Adolwa. And there's a thought stirring in Link's head with this, something he needs to think about, but before he gets sidetracked, he needs to go see the butler. This was all for him anyways. Around the side of the palace, through clear waters, Link finds the dapper butler waiting for him in a most unusual place. He tells the hero that the Deku have prepared a gift for him, and that all he must do is follow the butler to it. Though this is a challenge in and of itself, it's more of a wild chase through a gauntlet of death traps than an escort to a prize. This extremely long route is full of opportunities for Link to die or fail, but because Link has so many masks and tools at his disposal, this chase sequence isn't nearly as awful as it could have originally been. Link keeps pace with the butler and succeeds in reaching the end of this gauntlet at his side. The butler congratulates Link and apologizes for this difficult task. Link reminds him of his son somehow, who left home. He vanished and the butler doesn't know where he went. There was that shrub that Link bypassed when he first fell through the tree and arrived in Termina. Was that the butler's son? The Goron mask held the soul of Darmani. The Zora mask held Mikau. He never stopped to think about who was in the Deku mask. Could that be who it was? The butler gifts to Link the Mask of Sense, another good deed complete, but this one feels a little bit different. There's a sadness to it. There's nothing more he can do. He can't really give the butler closure, so it's time to just move on. The defeat of Adolwa and helping all of those people, it sparked an idea. As Link goes about his side quests helping people out, he decides that he's gonna take it one step further. Time is slowed, he still has a full day remaining. Why not have a bit of a boss rush? Save the Goron, the Zora, decurse the canyon? If the Guardians will allow him to jump straight to the end, then maybe he really can save everyone. Link flies to Snowhead to test this theory out. He doesn't have time to unfreeze the Elder or soothe the spirit of Darmani, but he already knows the song that he needs to lull that massive Goron spirit to sleep. It lets him beeline back to the temple, and sure enough, a portal has been ready to take him straight to Goat. It is another long fight, not made easier by equipment or tools, but Link takes the beast down and stops the snowstorms of the mountain well before midnight. This is working. He continues his pace, clearing side quests, helping those he can, and then he flies out to the Great Bay. He can't take time to get Lulu's eggs back, but if he can purify the waters of the Great Bay, make it safe again, then the Zora themselves should be able to handle that task. So he plays for Lulu the song that her children taught him, awakens the great turtle nearby, and gets back out to the Temple of the Great Bay. This place was a huge headache, but Link doesn't have to do a thing. The Guardian whisks him away to the lair of the inedible Georg. And this time around, he takes the monstrosity down in one go, no problem. The Zora people are going to be okay. Lulu is going to be okay. Her voice is already coming back to her. Her children will be rescued. But Link can't stay to celebrate. He flies to the final of the 4, the Stone Tower Temple. This canyon was once a horror show, but this time here, it feels like a victory lap. After he flips the temple and he makes it inside, he plummets into that vortex knowing exactly what to do about the twin mold. This is the last time that he'll get to use the Giant's Mask, so he best have fun with it. This encounter is far less harrowing this time through. Link becomes Godzilla-sized and stomps around the worms, taking massive swings. It's almost disappointing when the fun is through. He has to shrink back down to normal, get a move on, but it was definitely fun while it lasted. The 3rd day hasn't even dawned yet. Because he saved the old woman the first night, Seiken never went to the pawn shop, so Cafe never leaves town to go chase him down. He'd already seen through their stories before, but it still feels sad not being able to finish it out. So the postman, Madame Aroma, Andrew, and Cafe are all depending on him to truly succeed in saving Termina to find happy futures. It's not the finality that he hoped for, but he got them far enough along that should a 4th day dawn upon these lands, they'll be okay. The postman will be able to return to work, a family will be brought back together, a wedding will certainly take place, if Cafe's curse can be lifted, and he can apologize enough to Andrew. He's got a bit of free time, so Link goes for a ride in the fields again, and he hears a strange music coming from an iced-over mushroom sort of thing. And there's an almost naked, absolute sex god of a man dancing under the moonlight. He died some time ago, but his only regret was not passing on his dance moves. Link mends his heart with the Song of Healing, and the now untroubled spirit gifts Link his mask so that he can dance like a god too. You know, there were a couple dancers in Clocktown that were trying to figure out a cool dance routine for the carnival. Link heads back and he finds the twin gals trying to work out their routine in West Clocktown. He teaches them the sick dance moves of the master, solving their creative dilemma and making them very happy. Another good deed done. Link checks off one more thing in his bomber's notebook, and then he realizes that he's completed it. He's done every task that he set out to do. What a joy, and he did so much this cycle too. He still has all of day 3 to prepare for the moon, so he fills up his quiver, gets potions and fairies, collects every battle resource that he can find. He checks that he has all of his masks on hand, and when he's ready, he jumps ahead to the final night. At midnight, the clock tower opens up, and Link ascends the staircase one last time. Again, he stops the Skull Kid with the Oath to Order, summons the Guardians of Termina to hold the moon still. He follows the mask into the mouth of the moon, back to the sprawling green field teeming with life. Let's see what these moon children have to say. They'd asked him before for his masks. They'd asked him for gifts so that they could be happy too, and Link had refused. Because why would he want to make these children happy after everything that had been done? But not this time. He sets his pride aside and he approaches the first child.
Nice weather, isn't it? Masks. You have a lot. You too. Will you be a mask salesman? Then I'll play with you. So the masks. Give me some.
All these memories and keepsakes, it's time to give them up, hero.
Thanks! You're a nice person, aren't you? Hide and seek, let's play. Alright? I'll hide.
The moon child with the mask of Adolwa takes one mask from Link and then pulls him into a new plane within the moon. Using the Deku mask, Link makes his way through a small obstacle course of jumps and flying. Should Link have lost his way through Termina or overlooked particular tasks, there are gossip stones all around that will direct him towards a person and item that he may need to progress. The option to rewind time is still there should he need it. On the other side of the gorge is a door that takes him to the child in a strangely decorated and small room, almost like a macabre playroom with walls and ceiling painted to look like a skybox.
You found me. Hey, I want more masks.
Alright, well, time to say goodbye to more keepsakes.
Thanks. You're nice. Can I ask you a question? Your friends. What kind of people are they? I wonder. Do those people think of you as a friend?
Well, of course they do. Of course they do. Except not all of them remember him, and they do have their own lives to go live. So he can probably just hope that they feel the same way about him as how he feels about them. Adulwa is complete. The next masked child Link will confront will be Georg, and just like the moon child before him, this one demands more masks from Link. 3 this time to start things off. And once done, Link is pulled into another realm to play a game of hide and seek. Link must travel through a series of tunnels filled with flowing water. Using the Zora mask, he has to find the correct path through the branching labyrinth of underwater paths. Takes some luck, some guessing, some pathing, but he finds the Moonchild eventually, waiting for him, in a room similar to the one before. And just like before, he demands more masks from Link. Another set of 3 he takes. And then, another question.
The right thing. What is it? I wonder, if you do the right thing, does it really make everybody happy?
That's a hard question. He's certainly tried to always do the right thing. Tried to make people happy, but that's all he could ever do was just try. He's always done his best. Back to the field he goes, approaching the tree once again. 2 more children remain. Next will be Goat, who starts their encounter by taking 2 masks from Link. And then they take Link to a place made of long pathways, ramps, and tight turns that he will have to use the Goron mask to make it through. But here, if Link doesn't panic, if he lets the course naturally guide him forward, and if he only stops when there's a clear branching path, then he can make the process far easier on himself. Fighting the churns and trying to memorize the layout of the track will just make things harder. And at the end of this practice of letting go is of course the next Moonchild, patiently awaiting his arrival, with a demand for 3 more of Link's masks, and then yet another question.
Thanks. You're nice. Can I ask a question? What makes you happy? I wonder, what makes you happy? Does it make others happy too?
What? Of course it makes others happy. Helping and saving people is a good thing. It should make people rejoice. At least it should make good people rejoice. And evildoers, they know that they're evil, right? They deserve to be unhappy when Link confronts them because they're evil, right? Back to the field, 1 more Moonchild remains. This one wears the mask of the twin mold, and he takes from Link 4 masks. His entire collection is almost wiped out at this point. Each mask he surrenders is a small punch to the gut. He's not going to have anything left by the end of this, is he? Another game of hide and seek is demanded. Hopefully this is the last time. But the twin mold child pulls Link into trial by combat. 3 vicious enemies he must face, and hopefully he came well prepared with bomb chews and fire arrows to get through each locked door as well, because if he didn't, he'll be stuck. The final of the Moon Children awaits him at the end, demanding all of his remaining masks. That's the last of them.
Can I ask a question? Your true face. What kind of face is it? I wonder, the face under the mask, is that your true face?
The face under his mask? What other face would he have? What mask? What kind of a question is that? Of course this is his true face. Is he implying that Link is untruthful? Or a fraud? He's back in the field 1 more time. The last remaining being is that kid wearing Majora's mask. It's hard to call them a Moonchild with that thing on their face. But as he did with the other children, Link approaches them and speaks with them.
Everyone has gone away, haven't they? Will you play with me? You don't have any masks left, do you? Well, let's play something else. Let's play good guys against bad guys. Yes, let's play that.
This child gives Link a mask. The fierce deity's mask. This feels wrong.
Are you ready? You're the bad guy. And when you're bad, you just run. That's fine, right? Well, shall we play?
So, Link is the bad guy now. What does he mean by that? And this mask, is this how Majora wants to play? Link is taken back into that psychedelic arena, where Majora rests on its seat of importance. But before engaging the foe, Link decides he'll play along. He dons the mask of the fierce deity. He changes, just as he has done time and time again with the other transformation masks. But a dark energy is within this one. It feels evil. But the power is so great that Link far exceeds anything he was in his true form. The battle between the two begins, but this time, whatever Link has become dominates over the mask. He doesn't need extra equipment or fancy gear, potions, fairies, arrows to make contact with Majora. He wields a sword so powerful that it can make contact from the ground. In no time at all, the 4 mounted masks enter the fight, coming to Majora's aid. But why does the fierce deity even care? What are they going to do? Shoot him in the back? Beating the life out of Majora is just far too easy, far too enjoyable to pay them any mind. He continues his assault against it, pushing Majora into the next phase, into Majora's incarnation. While it stupidly runs around the room, screaming at the top of its lungs, the deity turns his eyes upon the 4 masks still fluttering around the room. They're just irritating now. They're in the way, so they will be the next to die. One by one, he cuts them down with ease, ignoring Majora for a while, and when they're taken care of, he can turn his attention back to enjoy the process of ending this menace. How many lives did it destroy? How many times did it defy and torment Link? And now he has the power to make it tremble and flee. Each swing feels better than the last. He pushes his wailing opponent into its final form, Majora's Wrath. The last time they fought, Wrath destroyed the boy. It was only by the grace of time that Link rose again. This time, though, no god's mercy is going to be saving anyone. The gods aren't needed here. Majora's Wrath still inflicts pain on the deity, but each hit from Majora is returned twofold. The powerful sword Link now wields does so much damage that it almost stuns the wrathful creature, allowing him to strike it multiple times before it regains its senses and flees from his reach. Majora can only keep the deity away for so long. Its flailing arms are simple for Link to dodge in this form, so simple that he completely destroys Majora.
If you believed the old tales, thousands of years ago, a man-eater was alone, having killed and consumed all around him. When a lone traveler arrived, it felt its deep loneliness for the first time, and it wished for it to end. The traveler did not raise a hand against the man-eater. Instead, they helped it. They played the monster a song to make time flow, a melody that the man-eater happily danced to for 3 days. On the dawn of the 4th, the man-eater fell dead, and its power was confined by the traveler into the remnants of its armor, carved into this mask, cast into the darkness of an unborn world. And now finally, the two have met again, albeit briefly, and in far different forms. Once, these two danced together.
Screaming, shaking, the vile spirit within the mask begins to dissipate in its own plane, the world crumbling away within it. Majora's Mask has been defeated, Termina's salvation delivered by a hero wielding a great evil. The moon itself begins to melt away. Overtaken by light, it vanishes into the sky. Denizens of Termina and the 4 guardians watch it fade. They will not die this morning. They will greet the dawn of a new day. Link awakens in the fields of Termina, the Skull Kid not far away, looking up at the 4 guardian giants of the land who stare back at him. In their way, the giants tell Skull Kid that they'd never forgotten about him. They were still his friend. And oh, the Skull Kid cries and sobs at hearing this. He was so sad, so lonely when they left. He didn't understand why they had to protect the lands. They didn't mean to hurt him. But still, it happened. Now he has to come to terms with that sadness and find a new way forward. Though now, with Tattle and Tail at his side. The 4 cannot stay. Once again, they must return to their corners of the land to serve their purpose. They hold no resentment, no animosity or hostility. They go in peace, leaving the Skull Kid to find his own way. When he shakes off his sorrow, Skull Kid approaches Link, asking if he was the one that saved him, and if maybe Link wanted to be his friend too? He smells just like a fairy kid who taught him a song in the woods once. So why not do something together now as friends? But first, this guy. The Happy Mask Salesman was the man who originally found and carried Majora's Mask. Who knows the ventures that he's had? Sometimes instigator, sometimes guiding light, always a little creepy. It is time for him to depart these lands. The power within Majora's Mask is gone. He has no reason to remain here. There's always more business to see to. The true nature of this strange man is left unknown. How he could have found something like this, carried something like this, not been enthralled by it. Oh, the secrets he must possess and the stories he could tell. Sadly, things that we may never get to know. So, safe trip to you, salesman. Thanks for helping stop your own apocalypse. The people of Termina have lives to put back together. With Majora's Mask defeated, things will return to normal eventually. Some damage has been done, but there's at least hope on the horizon for recovery. It's time for Tattle and Link to say goodbye as well. When Navi vanished, he was never given a chance at closure, but this time it's different. Though Tattle is rough around the edges, the two still bid each other a fond farewell, parting ways as friends. Link will not be remaining within Termina to observe the carnival that is about to take place. The Indiegogos perform their set at the Milk Bar Latte, the Gorman Troupe dancers get to put their skills on display, the inhabitants of Termina are getting back to the way things used to be within their homes. The postman wildly runs the fields around town, no longer completely tethered to his job. The great fairies of the land have been made whole once again. Romani Ranch is teeming with life and happiness as the two sisters and all of their cattle happily carry about their days with nothing in the world amiss. Vendors and shopkeepers around Clocktown continue on with their businesses. Those who worked so hard to be a part of and help make possible the carnival are able to sit back and enjoy the many shows and festivities that take place. And the cherry on top, Anju and Cafe are both completely back to normal and able to get married. A beautiful end to a once troubling tale. But for that Deku butler, the path beneath Clocktown is open once again, and he finds his son. That spirit within the Deku mask. No longer must he wonder what became of him. At least now he can perhaps carry his boy back home where he belongs. And for Link, he returns to his solitude within the forest, riding aimlessly in search of Navi, but with new scars that he will carry for the rest of his life. Though at least this time, he's leaving behind a land that welcomed him, embraced him. He was fighting a true and great evil, yet he made so many personal connections in his time there. Though most of his deeds were lost to the rewind of time and forgotten, the hero experienced acceptance. He experienced gratitude and warmth. And in the end, this time, he is leaving with joy in his heart. The road before him is uncertain and lonely in this moment, but there is more life that he has yet to find. Termina was proof of that. This is the end of this hero's tale. He will go on to have descendants, tales not for us to know. The bloodline of the aspects of wisdom and courage will carry on. One day, the one who carries courage will return to the dark forests to slumber beyond death, to aid a future hero who will be burdened with twilight fate. But, well, what of the aspect of power? Of Ganondorf? He was to be executed in Link's absence. The vile Gerudo King was taken back out to the deserts, to execution grounds, where he would die alone, unnoticed, shamed, unremarkable. The sages were to oversee this grim task. But he was the holder of power. The execution failed. He murdered one of the sages. He was cast into a foreign realm as a final attempt just to contain him. But in doing this, another people would be forced to contend with the power and influence of this evil one. The once interlopers would be made victim of the failure of the sages. In a far-off time, in a kingdom reshaped by its passage, the very same Ganondorf will return, and he will hold in his heart a hatred so deep that nothing will stop him from returning to Hyrule. Nothing would stop him from killing the descendants of wisdom and courage.